Good morning and welcome to our third and final session of the 2024 Wellness Series featuring Anthony Minichiello. My name's Adam O'Leary and I'm a member of the icare Mobile Engagement Team, otherwise known as the MET. Today I'm presenting from Dharawal country and I pay my respects to the eldest people and ancestors of this country where I'm based. I'd also like to pay my respects to the traditional custodians of the various lands in which we all work from today, and any Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islander people participating in this webinar. Just as a quick reminder also, today is Are You OK Day, so please check with your family, friends and colleagues, and I hope you're all okay today. So 2024 is the first time we've rolled out this wellness series. We've received some really nice feedback, and with today's session achieving over 1,400 registrations, I certainly see it as a great success. We started the series with Jeff Hardy to talk about timeless practices and how these have been applied for tens of thousands of years through the Aboriginal culture. Jeff shared some really cool personal stories, including his highlights and challenges. And if you didn't get to see this session, you can view it on the webinar on the MET webpage, which we'll share the link to later. We then had Joanna Kerrigan present on you and your wellness and wellbeing, with Joanna providing lots of practical information, tools and guidance to assist the attendees in building a personal wellness plan. Unfortunately, this session wasn't recorded due to contractual agreements. And then today, we wrap up our wellness series with the amazing Anthony Minichiello, who completes our series with a focus on your wellness through nutrition and health, which makes the series a very well-rounded series. So at the prior events, I shared an important message that was shared to me by someone who you know well, Minnie, a wise old man named Mr. Matthew Elliott. And that was, if you don't make time for your wellness, you'll be forced to make time for your illness. So I'll repeat that again. If you don't make time for your wellness, you will be forced to make time for your illness. It's a really important message, and I hope you can apply this to your own world moving forward as you are today. So congratulations on attending this session. So now just a bit of housekeeping. Everyone's camera and mic is disabled. The chat box will also be closed, which we will reopen at the end of the session for a Q&A session with Minnie. The final bit of housekeeping is that the session is being recorded, and the slide pack that Minnie is presenting today will be shared to all attendees post the event. So let me tell you a little bit about our special guest speaker, Anthony Minichiello, otherwise known as Minnie. Minnie is a legendary former NRL League player who was a one-club player for the Sydney Roosters and played over 300 NRL games. He was honoured with team captaincy, has played in 6 grand finals and won 2. He's played at the highest level, including selection in New South Wales State of Origin and Australian teams, and maybe a stint with Italy there once upon a time, Minnie. Yeah. He was also the Golden Boot winner in 2005, which, if you don't know, represents the International Player of the Year, the best player in the comp around the world. And to cap it off, Minnie was also included in the Sydney Roosters Team of the Century. So from a sporting perspective, Minnie is an elite athlete who spent many years bashing up his body. Since retirement, Minnie has been a health and fitness coach and motivational speaker with both adults and kids. He's the founder of MiniFit, which delivers programs to kids at schools and in holiday clinics, teaching the importance of health, fitness and nutrition. He's also a motivational speaker for businesses such as yourselves, and we'll be sure to share Minnie's details post today's webinar if you're keen to reach out and have him visit your workplace. So whilst we can acknowledge Minnie's amazing career achievements, unfortunately, Minnie also suffered a series of serious spinal injuries through his career. And after specialists eventually told him his league career was over, and this was earlier on in his career, he was determined to understand more about his injuries and options to heal his body. So today we're going to hear more about this journey and learn about the 4 simple steps that everyone can incorporate into their lives to decrease inflammation and chronic diseases whilst improving energy production and mental clarity for better well-being. So welcome, Minnie. Thanks for joining us today, and I'll now hand over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Adam. That's an awesome intro, mate. I appreciate it. And thank you for everyone that has jumped on the webinar this morning and giving up your time. I know your time is precious, so I appreciate that. So, as Adam mentioned, I was a rugby league player for 18 years at the Sydney Roosters. Why am I so passionate about nutrition and health and fitness? Well, I'll tell you my story, and I'll actually take it back to the very beginning. I grew up southwest of Sydney on acreage. We have Italian heritage, so the Italian culture is sort of to grow your own, cook your own if you got the room. So we had the 5 acres, we had our cows and chickens and eggs and fruit trees and veggie patches. And as you can imagine, my mum was a pretty dang good cook, still is. So we had sort of a whole food nutrition upbringing without even knowing how important it actually was for us. Younger brother, younger sister as well. And when, thinking back to my childhood now, I've sort of never got sick at all. I played many different sports and never seemed to get injured. I was pretty lucky at the age of 16, I got signed by the Sydney Roosters. The great Arthur Beetson sort of plucked me out of the West and took me to the East. And that was the start of my sort of Roosters journey. At 18, though, I moved out of home and started to get closer to training and really focus on trying to make first grade. But when you move out of home, you lose all those great foundations of good whole food nutrition that my parents were cooking up each night. It was a massive eye-opener, but the things happened really quickly for me. So this photo here is 2002. I made my first grade debut in the year 2000. I was 19 years of age, and I ended up making a grand final that year. And then 2 years after that, making my debut, I was winning a grand final. As you can see in this photo here, I was 22 years of age. Things were happening really quickly for me. But at this point in the league at the time, in the early 2000s, there was a huge drinking culture with every team, not just ours. Every single team, you would finish the game, you would walk up into the sheds and you're handed beers straight away. You go into the showers and there's ice bars that were full of beers, which has all changed now. You have to jump into the ice bars and recover. But that wasn't the case back then. And if you weren't out with the team that night after the game, it was like a recovery session the next day. Where were you last night? It's not good enough. But look, I must admit we had some great times. There's no doubt about it. But we were, starting to burn the candle at both ends. And during this time, this period here, we were a pretty good team. So we would regularly play on a Friday night, which gives us the weekends to ourselves. So the drinking went most of the weekends, all weekend, Friday night into Saturday, even into Sunday at some weekends. And then we would, train your butt off through the week and arguably play one of the toughest contact sports in the world again on the weekend, and the cycle kept happening. There was only probably one rule back in that era, and it was, if you're injured or you got a big cork or whatnot, you weren't allowed to drink. But as a young 20-year-old or in your early 20s, you sort of maneuver around those little niggles, and you get to the team doctor and you're asking for some painkillers or sleeping tablets or anti-inflammatories. And back then that was rife as well. Handing out packets of prescription medications were just what happened. That's all changed now. It's all documented and what goes out and what comes in and all that type of stuff. But back then it wasn't. So you start to accumulate packets of prescription medications, you use them through the week, you get through the game, you drink all weekend, you eat out all night, so you're not really focusing on any lifestyle factors. But again, I wasn't getting injured at this point. I was still playing lots of games. We're making grand finals, and at age of 23, I'm playing for New South Wales and playing with the mortals like Joey Johns, and playing for Australia at 23 as well, and going on tour in England, and life was great. And at this point in time as well, we had our own dietitians and nutritionists, and they were just coming from the conventional model, and they were actually telling me that you are one of the lucky ones. You got great genes and genetics from your parents and grandparents. You're very lean. You can basically eat what you want, drink what you want. So when you get told that, when you're in your early 20s, you actually think you're bulletproof. And that's what I thought I was. I thought I was bulletproof. I couldn't break. I could do whatever I wanted off the field. and I'll just make sure I train my butt off when I get the training and play the hardest I can. And things were happening for me. I was winning awards and doing well, and I played more games in this 5-year period from the year 2000 to 2005 than anyone in the league, and I wasn't even a big guy. So I started to believe the hype that my body was unbreakable. But things started to crack in 2005. I was 25 years of age, and I probably personally, I had one of the best seasons of my career. As Adam mentioned, winning the Golden Boot Award, winning all these awards, that happened in 2005. And this is the award right here. This is on an end of season kangaroo tour. I'm playing for Australia. This is in England, and they announced the big award, and the great Arthur Beetson handing me this award, who recruited me to the Roosters, was a great moment. But every time I look at this photo, I'm not even looking at the award. I'm actually looking at my face and how puffy it was, and literally my eyes are almost closed over, my hands are puffy, and I was supposed to be a professional athlete at the top of my game. In your mid-20s, that's when you're at your peak. But now looking back at this photo, I actually know what was going on. I had chronic inflammation, oxidative stress bubbling beneath my body. So something had to give. If I didn't change anything in my lifestyle, something was going to happen, injury or illness or whatnot. So this year I had some flare-ups in my lower back that were just started with back spasms, then turned into 3-day back spasms, and turned into guided cortisones in hospital. And I just played on because I thought I was bulletproof still. So at this point here, at the end of this season, and this was the last time I ever played for Australia again, because in the pre-season of 2006, I actually injured my back quite heavily, and it actually took me 2 weeks to get over, but I did get over it and I started the season. But I played the first 6 weeks of the 2006 season with constant hamstring pain down my left leg, which I thought was hamstring pain. It was actually nerve pain, running all the way down to my toes. But the thing was, I would warm up and go out and play, and that pain would disappear. But I would warm down and I'd be around the house, and getting out of bed, that pain would increase ever so slightly from day to day, week to week, and it was starting to get difficult to put my socks and shoes on of a morning, because anyone that has experienced nerve pain knows what I'm talking about. It's just there constantly. You can't get rid of it. So I did get selected back in that Australian team for the Anzac Day test, but I actually got ruled out because I couldn't bend down and touch my toes. I could only go down and touch my knees before that pain would dig in. And the team doctor and physio said, "Look, Minnie, we can't let you play like this. There's no way. I'm going to rule you out, but I need you to go see a specialist." So I went up and seen a specialist at St Vincent's and got an MRI. And the MRI showed that my L5-S1 disc, which is the lowest disc in your back, has fully ruptured, and it's hitting your sciatic nerve. And that's that pain you're experiencing down your leg into your toes, and the tingling and whatnot. So the doctor said, "You need an operation." So I thought, I played more games than anyone in this 5-year period. Let's just get this operation and come back bigger and better and hit the ground running. So I did get the operation. I remember waking up from that operation and that nerve pain had gone, and I was like, thank God for that. What a relief. And I was running again in 6 weeks, and I still hadn't connected the dots with nutrition and lifestyle yet. I didn't make it back for that end of the season because it just didn't feel right. So now I'm preparing for the 2007 season, and I remember at this point I'm doing 2 anti-inflammatories in the morning, 2 at night. I'm doing 4 a day, thinking that these tablets and prescription medications are helping me. Now, I know they have a short-term a benefit, short-term benefit, but if we stay on these prescription medications for long-term, they disrupt gut lining and make things worse. And that was exactly what was happening to me. So I actually played the first 10 games of the 2007 season, and I actually make it back into the New South Wales team. I played game 1. I'm actually in camp for game 2. We're at Coogee. It's 3 days out before the game, and our day was breakfast, team breakfast, get on the team bus, head out to Homebush, stay the last 2 nights at the Novotel out there. I literally just roll out of bed, put my socks and shoes on, and I hear this sort of click in my back. My back goes into full spasm, I sort of panic and I crawl to the floor to try and get some relief on a hard surface. And I feel this severe nerve pain running down my right leg this time, which is the opposite leg from last year. So I call the physio and team doctors in and they try and get me moving, but nothing was happening. I was in full spasm. So obviously the team bus sails off and stays on course. They try and get me moving, but nothing was happening. So I get ruled out of that game. I go back up to St Vincent's Hospital and get another MRI. And that's this image right here. I'm not sure if you can see the image from your screens, but there is a bulging disc at L45, which is the second lowest disc. And you can see it, if you can see it, it's bulging out and it's hitting my sciatic nerve. And that's the pain that was running down my right leg this time. So the surgeon said the disc above has done the same thing as your previous year. What do you want to do? Do you want to come back and play a contact sport like rugby league again? And I was like, of course, I'm 27, I'm so young, definitely. So he said, look, we performed a laminectomy last year, which is a pretty heavy operation, big incision in your back. Let's do a microdiscectomy. It's a similar operation, but it won't affect the structure of your spine like a laminectomy. So same incision, we'll use the same incision as last year, reopen that. And I went, okay, let's do that. So I went in, got that done. And I remember waking up from this operation, things felt a little different. I still felt irritation, nerve irritation in my right glute. And I had these explosions of pins and needles in my right hip for like a month after. Every time I would try to go to sleep, they would just like explode. And the doctor was saying, it's just inflammation around the joints and the operation. Just take the recovery a lot slower than the previous year. So I do that. I take it a lot slower. But I still hadn't changed anything in my lifestyle. I'm still doing the anti-inflammatories and all the prescription meds and eating out and all that type of stuff. So now I'm preparing for the 2008 season, and I only get 5 games in, and I'm on the bench press and I just push out a rep and I sort of pinch a nerve in my neck, and I don't think too much of it. I actually play that game on the weekend, and towards the end of that game, we're in front, and I think one of the boys scored a try. We're walking back to receive the kick, and I call for the water bottle. I go to squeeze it, and my wrist sort of just caves in. I felt like I had no power in my fingers and forearm. I thought, gee, that's weird. Anyway, I finished the game and I tell the team doctor, and he said, look, that doesn't sound right, Minnie, because, knowing your history with your spine and your lower back, I think we better get that checked out. So this was a Sunday game. I have an MRI on the Monday afternoon. I'm actually training on the field Tuesday for a Friday game. It was a shorter turnaround that week. And I remember my physio at the time just comes running out down the tunnel. We're training on Allianz Stadium, and he's screaming my name, Minnie, 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 get off the field, come and see me. And I sort of pull back from the playing group. I'm like, what's up? He goes, your report's just come back from your MRI yesterday, and mate, it is not good news. You have a significant disc bulge in your C5, C6 vertebra, and it's showing that the disc bulge is 1 millimeter away from your spinal cord. Any type of hit could put you in a wheelchair. Anyway, I was basically in shock. So we just strolled off the field together, and we sat in the front row at Allianz Stadium. And obviously a million thoughts start to flood your mind, and you're thinking, what the hell is going on with my spine? 2 operations already. I had a smaller disc bulge in my thoracic, and now I've got this huge disc bulge in my neck. So again, I go up to St Vincent's, became a regular through the mid-2000s up there. And I remember the surgeon just looking at this image of my spine, and he said, look, all your discs, if you can see on the image here, are black. Like, someone that has a healthy spine, they should be white. They should have fluid in them. That's your cushioning system for running, sprinting, grappling, twisting, all that. When they become dehydrated, that's when they're more susceptible to bulge and rupture and tear. I said, well, what do we do? How do we rehydrate the discs again? How do I get better? And he said, look, it's pretty hard to rehydrate one, let alone all of them. My advice to you is try and find a new avenue of work because contact sport may not be for you anymore. So that was the news handed down to me in 2008. And I remember at the time, like, going home and I was telling my wife, and she was like, but you got to find out the reasons why. Why are your discs gone black and someone else's hasn't? So that sort of why kept ringing in my head. So I went on this quest and search to try and find answers. I went conventional, I went holistic, I like so many people. And towards the end of that journey, I sort of found someone that is a mentor of mine now, a good friend. And he just had a functional movement training studio in Bondi Junction, but he tied in food and lifestyle into his programming. And I remember going to see him and he sat me down, he didn't even ask me how I got injured and whatnot. He just started asking me about how I grew up and the food I ate and the lifestyle I lived and how is it different now and all those questions. And I thought they were weird at the time, but now I know what he was getting at. He was trying to get a picture of how I grew up and how I live now and, what sort of factors are contributing to the breakdown of my body. So he said to me that day, he said, you can repair your body if you're willing to make some sacrifices, but then do things consistently. And I was pretty much invested in that because I'd seen hundreds of people that sort of were giving me the same answers. We had access to all the best specialists and whatnot as a professional team, and I was getting the same answer time and time again. So I started working with Aaron once a week. I'll go there, we'll do a functional movement training program. He would film the last part of that, send it to my phone, then I'll go and take my phone into the Roosters gym and do that same session through the week. Now, in 2008, functional movement training wasn't really around in rugby league. It was all, who can lift the heaviest and squat the most and all that type of stuff. Whereas I was doing more cable and lighter weights, but focusing on core stability training. But the Roosters were pretty good to me. They left me to my own devices because they really didn't know how to improve my body either, because the last 3 years I had 3 spine injuries. So now I'm preparing for the 2009 season. I feel a little bit stronger in my core. I felt like I was on the right track. This is going to be a big year. I'm going to play a full season again. I'm coming off contract this year, so I've got to have a big year. It's round 2 down in Canberra, and I do all my ligaments in my left ankle and a spiral fracture under my knee. So it was a rotation injury. So I actually thought I broke my ankle because I heard a huge crack. But as our physio here, Travis, was playing around and said, oh, mate, do you think you can get up and put some weight on it? So at this point, this is at the very start of the game. So it's funny what adrenaline does to you. I got up and I thought, oh, hang on a minute. It's pretty sore, but I think I can play on. So I hobbled out to the wing. I was playing fullback, but I hobbled out to the wing and played the next 5 minutes. And I ended up scoring a try and getting corked on my right leg. As I got up, I said to Travis here, I said, yeah, I think I'm done. Both legs are hurting pretty bad. So I walked off the field, walked into the change room, sat down, the doctor come in, and as soon as I just relaxed and took a breath, my left leg blew up like a balloon. They had to give me a shot of morphine in my leg and send me off to the hospital straight away. So obviously x-rays showed that the 3 major ligaments that hold your tibia and fibia together were all ruptured. And then a week later, I was still really sore under my knee. And then they re-x-rayed that, and I had a spiral fracture in the smaller bone, the fibula. So I was out for 22 weeks now, and I was coming off contract at this point as well. And I remember ringing Aaron and my trainer, and I was like, I can't believe it. I'm injured again. This is 4 years in a row now. And he said, look, this could be a blessing in disguise for you because you can take 1 to 2 steps back from week to week combat, preparing your body mentally and physically for a battle, where you can just strip that back and actually take your time in rebuilding your body back up, and then let's really hone in on the food and nutrition side of it. So that's what I did, and I was very lucky that the Roosters offered me a 1-year contract, match payments only, and that meant that I had to actually play my game to earn my money. And I took that up. I said, yep, let's go for it. So this is where I sort of dived into the food system and the role it plays in healing our bodies and decreasing inflammation and pain that many people experience every day in everyday life. So the overarching thing is like, eat whole fresh food. I think everyone knows that, but how do we know what we're purchasing on a daily basis is really nutrient dense for us? Because when you dive into the food system, it's actually quite shocking to see the toxicity that we are consuming in our bodies that really is starting to hinder us as we age. Now, I'll talk about animal products and I'll move on to some plant foods as well. On the left here, you've got regenerative farm, healthy animals, the way they should be farmed, natural farming. On the right, you've got factory farms. Now, my uncle actually used to own a chicken farm, just like the one you see on the right here, up at Pete's Ridge years and years ago. I remember he was always under pressure because the big corporations put pressure on these growers to make sure that these chickens are fully grown in 6 weeks, and they need to be fully grown at a certain weight and height, whatever, in a 6-week period, which is pretty quick. And as you can see in that photo there, they're squashed together. They're in light and temperature controlled rooms. They don't see the light of day. They're not foraging for their own food. They get served pellets of corn, soy and grain, and it's all binded together with old vegetable oils from fast food outlets. So they're eating their unnatural diet, which makes them sick. If some chickens die overnight, then they hit the whole batch with antibiotics to make sure that none others do. So really, if you're eating conventional produce, we're eating sick animals. It's terrible. Same thing with beef on the right there. They're grain feeding beef from start to finish, which is unnatural to them. It fattens them up and creates more marbling, and people think they actually like that because it tastes better or it's softer. But in fact, it really disrupts the cow's digestive system and makes them sick themselves. So that's when I go through my 4 steps, you'll understand the importance of how important your produce and the quality of your produce really is. So on the left side, when they're farmed in a regenerative manner, this is when animal products become really nutrient dense. They have all 9 essential amino acids. It's a complete protein all in one go, which the body cannot make. The body needs to get essential amino acids from food, and a good quality protein is a total protein that offers all those amino acids in one go. Same thing is happening with our fish and seafood. On the right here, you've got a wild piece of salmon, rich in omega-3 fatty acids, really good for brain health and immunity, and it's really rich in color. You can see that. On the left is coming from farm salmon, and sadly, all Australian and New Zealand salmon that we are eating now is farmed. And what are they feeding the farm salmon? Pellets of corn, soy, and grain, binded together with old oils from fast food outlets. Again, see, fattening the fish up creates that marbling, but you can see the colour. And if you watched any documentaries on farm salmon, I don't know if you'll be eating salmon again, because some of them are grey and they actually have to dye them pink again. So the quality of our produce is really, really important. Now, moving on to plant foods before I get on to step 1, because the same thing is happening with our fruits and vegetables. Now, the whole regenerative farming thing, 50, 60 years ago, it was just the way people farmed. You would separate your crops and you would rotate your crops into 3, 4, 5 different crops. And once you yield one crop, you move to the next. So that meaning you're giving the soil time to rest and regenerate. And by the time you get back to crop 1, it's full of life. The soil gives a life to the plant to the fruit or veg. Now with the huge big monocrops and farming the same thing all the time, that the soil doesn't get time to actually recover and regenerate, and we're starting to grow things in dirt. So, our nutrient density of our fruits and vegetables is much lower than what it was 60 years ago. And from that, the plant doesn't get the best defense mechanisms because the soil isn't as rich as it used to be. So that means bugs and insects are invited to the crop. So what happens then? The big farmers and all that, they herbicide, pesticide, insecticide these crops, And again, that is leaching into our food system. Microtoxins, and you think about it, we eat 3 times a day. Some people eat 4 times a day after day, week after week, month after month, year after year. That means our toxic load keeps building and building and building. And as we all age, our detoxification system, that slows down. That's just the natural aging process. And as we get older, chronic disease is rife, and that starts with inflammation, turning into chronic inflammation, turning into chronic disease. So it's the things that we've been doing to ourselves over a number of years that get us to that chronic disease part, which is all can be reversed if we focus on the produce. Now, regenerative farming agriculture increases carbon into the soil, and that's what we want. We want to pull it out of the air and back into the soil. Now, if we're not farming, if we're farming in the conventional manner, we're farming in dirt, so the carbon is not there and it's released back out into the air, which we don't want. So I'm going to move on to step 1. Know the source of your food and where it comes from. So that means grass-fed and finished beef and lamb, organic or free-range chicken and pork, wild-caught fish and seafood, seasonal fruit and vegetables. Get them from farmers markets where the local farmers come in, because lots of big supermarket chains now, although they are getting better with some organic produce, but the conventional produce is coming from, or they're having fruits and vegetables all year round. There's no season anymore. So that means they're coming from America, coming from somewhere else. And when they're coming from a long way away, they're actually spraying different types of toxins onto these, say, for example, apples, keep them looking fresh. And some of our apples, they're months and months old that we're eating. I've got eat nose to tail here, and I'll explain that in step 2, because as we go to the butcher and getting to know your local butcher is really paramount here, and asking him these questions on where the meats come from, where the cows are from, where the chicken's from, what they've eaten, because any good butcher wants to tell their story, and if they don't, I would suggest finding a new butcher. So a little bit of searching to work out where you feel trusted when you buy your fruits and vegetables and your meat is important, because if you're eating, grass-fed, grass-finished, I feel it, then the prices are a little bit more expensive. But I've got this study here, and it comes out of Monash University in Australia, that, out of a family of 4, they've spanned this over 1 year. So when you switch to buying spray-free or organic produce or better quality produce, you may think you're outlaying more money. But if you think more long-term with this, because when you eat nutrient-dense foods, you don't need to constantly eat and snack all day. The body is actually nourished, and you eat less, and you eat less often as well. So there's a saving there, but also you make a conscious effort to save on all the ultra crap processed foods out there, the biscuits, the chips, the lollies, the ice creams. So you're saving costs there. And then from that, your body is much more healthy, your immune system is much more strong and robust. So you're not going to the doctor every month, or you're not getting the colds and flus anymore. You don't need those prescription medications anymore. Another cost cut. So if you factor that in, and this study here over a year, when they factored that in, it's actually 12 to 15% less with a family of 4 when you eat this way. So invest in your health early and get the rewards later. So step 1 is get to know the source of your food and where it comes from. Paramount. Now step 2, there's 2 parts to this. This is knowing the process of your food and how you cook your food at home. Now this photo here with all the industrial seed oils, highly oxidized already in the bottle before we even buy them or use them. And we're cooking with these oils. We're cooking these oils under heat, which oxidizes and creates free radicals. Now, free radicals are plaque buildup in arteries and blood vessels. So if we're using any of these oils here, we're actually slowly poisoning ourselves in the cardiovascular risks as we age. Now, sadly, these are the cheapest oils to buy on bulk as well. So most restaurants are using these type of oils. So cottonseed oil is regularly used because it has no taste, And even I've heard of some Italian restaurants drizzling olive oil at the end, and they say, yeah, it's cooked in olive oil, but it's cooked in cottonseed oil. So that's the problem with eating out every single night as well, because that we're using these oxidized oils over and over again. And to get it looking like a consumable oil goes through a 16 to 17 step process. So it's highly processed already before we even consume these oils. So if there's one thing you take out of today is get rid of these oils, don't cook with them at home at all. The oils to cook with, I don't know if you remember your grandparents cooking with natural fats, good quality fat soluble vitamins, really important. Now, high heat cooking, you can use ghee, beef tallow, pork lard, duck fat, all those, coconut oil, but as long as it comes from step one, a healthy animal first and foremost. That's the most important thing. Light cooking on medium to low heat, extra virgin olive oil, avocado oil, macadamia oil, grass-fed butter. Now, all these oils are high in good, healthy omega-3s, omega-9 fatty acids, which is what we need for immunity and cell membrane health. So every cell in our body has a membrane around it, and it needs healthy fats to support that. And that's what these oils do if they come from a good source. So the second part to step two is how we cook our food. So let's say, for example, you've got a lamb shoulder here, like in the photo, and you're slow cooking it. So you've used extra virgin olive oil, you put all your veggies in. Most people turn on 180 degrees and cook it within an hour. We're actually cooking that way too quickly, and we're burning all the enzymes and nutrition out of it because it's on such a high heat. So if you want to turn that dial down to 120, or cook in a slow cooker and cook it for 6, 7, 8 hours, this is when you get the maximum nutrition out of your protein, when you're slow cooking things, because those enzymes and nutrition, they all stay intact because it's on such a low heat. Now, the easiest thing to do is buy a slow cooker, which is, you can pick them up for $30, $40 these days. I cook things overnight, or I cook things all day, because it's on such a low heat, you can't stuff it up. So the longer you leave it, actually the better it gets. And the slow cooker is a real easy way for people to start to have nutrient-dense foods on hand at home all the time. So if I had, say, lamb shanks or lamb shoulder, whack them in the slow cooker, salt and pepper herbs, that takes a couple of minutes. Put it on 10 hours, I go to work all day, come home, it's falling off the bone. I'll steam or roast a heap of veggies, make a huge salad. That's a 15, 20-minute process. And that's the easiest way that anyone can have nutritious food at home all the time, is get the slow cooker going. And that's really important. This photo here is bone broth. Now, this was a huge part of my recovery. So this is like liquid gold. And the way bone broth works is it's full of collagen. So if you think in our musculoskeletal system, bones, hair, nails, skin, tendons, ligaments, cartilage, all that is collagen. Now, as we age, sadly, our collagen production just decreases. That's what happens. That's why we get wrinkles. That's why all the type of those things that happen when we age. But we can slow that process down and make sure that we have healthy connective tissues, all those tissues I just mentioned, with collagen and bone broth. Now, it's an easy process. You just boil bones for a period of time, 12, 16, 24 hours. Now, the easiest one to do first, if you want to give it a go, is chicken, because it just tastes like chicken soup. It's delicious. You just put 2 chicken carcasses or 2 chicken frames in the slow cooker or in a bowl. I put the slow cooker on 10 hours, low heat. Then as that 10 hours runs out, I hit 10 hours again. So I'll do 20 odd hours. After that process, during that slow process, it's drawing all the fat soluble vitamins, all the collagen and gelatin out of the bones, which is the liquid gold. And then you strain the bones out and you keep the liquid, you put it in glass containers, you put some in the fridge, some in the freezer. And my wife and I would just drink it like a tea, and I would grate fresh ginger or herbs or lemon or whatever you want to put in it as your taste. With my daughter, when she was a baby, I would cook like a chicken broth pasta for her, and she would be lapping that up. So that's a good way to introduce it into your kids' lives. Or you can use it as a stock for slow cooking. You can boil vegetables in it. There's a heap of ways you can get bone broth into your life. Or you can just drink it like a tea. That's what I do, because it is delicious. So that's, and also it has a real soothing effect on gut bacteria. So, you know, everything is digested in the gut. We want to have a good balance of the trillion bacteria that lie in there, and bone broth is a way to keeping that balance intact as well. So that's really important to know. Okay, so step 3 is to decrease our ultra processed foods in the diet. Now, notice how I said you don't eliminate it, because you can't eliminate maybe some of your favorite foods or pizza here and there or hot chips. Who doesn't like that every now and again, right? So I always work towards the 80-20 rule. 80% nutrient-dense foods and 20% enjoy parts of life that you like to enjoy. Now, the way I create that is my foundation is at home and through the work week. So I'm always cooking at home through the week, and then through the work week, that is my foundation. Weekends, I'm pretty much relaxed, or if I have a function on, then I enjoy myself. But I know that I've got my strong foundation that I always fall back on in these 4 steps. So that's the way we want to sort of get, that's what you will sort of want to get to, because you get to the 80-20 rule, there'll be huge benefits, trust me. Now, what happens if we over-consume these ultra-processed foods? So when you consume these types of foods, blood sugar rises really quickly. And then an hour or 2 later, blood sugar dips. So you're doing this, blood sugar is doing this all day. Now, when the body's not nourished with proper nutrition, blood sugar will drop and the brain will say, you're still hungry, you need to eat again. So you get locked into eating and snacking all day. Afternoon crashes, dependent on coffee, I need an arvo nap. All that happens because your blood sugar is doing this. Now, the body knows that sugar in the blood is quite toxic. So the pancreas will release insulin. Insulin will push the sugar out of the blood, convert it into, or put it into glycogen units, which is one energy source that the body does have. When you eat carbohydrates or any processed food, it's digested as glucose, stored in glycogen units. Now, the body only has a limited amount of storage for glycogen units in the body. Some doctors only say 400 to 500 grams. So that's not that much when you think about it. So what happens, there's 2 things that happen when your glycogen stores are full and you're still eating and snacking every day. Now, 1, the body will start to store body fat. So kilos will grow. Or the other one is the sugar stays in your blood and you become a pre-diabetic, and then you end up with type 2 diabetes. Now, you know, we've reversed type 2 diabetes countless amount of times just with these 4 steps, and this step 3 is a huge one to start with. So that's really important, is to try and manage these foods, because they're really highly addictive too. So that's why that's what they're designed to do, keep you coming back for more and more and more. But if you can just work to the 80-20 rule, that would be fantastic. Okay, step 4, guys, and that's the time restricted eating piece, and weaving in intermittent fasting into your diet. Which is really important. Throughout evolution, our bodies are designed to feast and fast. So give time for your digestion to have rest and no food, and then feast with good, nutritious food. Now, in this modern age, it's just eating, feasting, order something on the phone, everything is just delivered. You can just eat 24/7 if you want. And we don't really spend time on giving our digestion a rest anymore. Now, a lot of energy turns, when we're eating food, a lot of energy turns to digestion, right from enzymes getting released, going down the GI tract, the stomach, the small intestine, the large intestine, blood sugar regulation. Like, a lot is happening when we're in an eating state. When we're in a non-eating state, in a fasted state, and there's no food in our gut from 12 hours and beyond, this is when the body can start to accelerate the healing within. Our body's pretty amazing if we give it the right tools. Now, here's a fasting timeline window. So at 12 hours, so if you think about it, research, everyone knows now, don't eat before you go to bed, because your body's still that will be digesting as you try and go to sleep, and it won't release the proper amounts of melatonin for quality sleep. So try not to eat 2 to 3 hours before you go to bed. Try to be in bed for 8 hours, and some days don't eat for the first hour as you wake up. That gives you 12 hours there. 12 hours, you get your digestion, you give your digestion system a rest, which is really important. And from that point, it says HGH, human growth hormone, rises. Now, human growth hormone is a natural hormone that is a building block hormone, and it's also a repair hormone. It keeps us younger for longer. If we go into 16 hours, this is when the body gets into fat burning, which is called ketosis. Now, the body has 2 energy systems. You don't go into starvation mode when you don't eat. The body switches from burning sugars, remember, glucose, glycogen storage units, it switches when there's none of that left, because that's a quick burning fuel. Then it switches to burning fats. The body will go into ketosis, where the body produces ketones, and you're burning up your fat storages. Now, the body is designed to do both. It's not designed to stay in here. It's not designed to stay in here. The body is designed to use both systems from time to time. And that's called metabolically flexible. And that's what you want to do. So weaving in intermittent fasting is really important for our health, but it gives us a chance for our body to switch from burning sugar to burning fats, which is really important. Now, if you want to extend that from 18, 20 to 24 hours, the body will induce a thing called autophagy, and that means self-cleansing, self-eating. I don't know if you remember that old game Pac-Man, when it goes around eating all those dots. That's what happens to our bodies. The old and damaged cells and DNA and proteins in the body, all the debris that we collect over years and years, the body will go and eat that as an energy source first, and it's like a self-cleansing detox. Now, I've got a couple of stories to share, because I've read all this research starting in 2015, and I was reading about the human growth hormone rises when the body's in a faster state, and I was like, okay, I practice it. I feel great. I do feel great, but let's test it. Let's see if this is right. So years ago, I did a blood test, and I did a 24-hour fast. I went from lunch to lunch. So before I ate, I went and blood tested myself and checked my growth hormone. I pulled up my last blood results, looked at my growth hormone, 0.9. Yeah, pretty low. Looked at the fasted state blood results. My growth hormone was 8.9, 8 times higher. Now that's huge, right? So that means my body was in accelerated repair mode when I haven't put food in it. When the body can turn to these things and accelerate the healing and decrease all the inflammation and whatnot that's happening within the body. Now, the other story is after I retired, 2014, but 2015, I went on a motorbike ride, come back, my back was really sore. No nerve pain, but just centralized pain. I went and seen my old sports doc, and he said, look, let's get an MRI. It's been sore for 2 weeks. We better check it out. I had a piece of disc 1 centimeter in diameter that broke off my L4-5, and it was just sitting there floating. And he goes, mate, that's the pain you're experiencing. You need an operation. Get that piece out. And I said, oh, look, I'm going to try and let my body break it down naturally. And he sort of chuckled and said, I'm sure you'll be back in a couple of weeks and booking in this operation. So this is when I really started to focus on fasting, and I didn't do anything the same. I used to change it up, 1 meal a day, 2 meals a day, 3 meals a day, no meal for the day. I just varied it. 10 months later, I went back, got an MRI, took it back to the sports doc, and he's going through the images, completely gone. My body had metabolized it and ate it up as an energy source. And that's the power of autophagy, and that's the power of fasting. So in any of these categories, protein, carbs, fats, fasting, you can always go overboard. That's what I want to share. You can always go overboard in everything, but you want to make sure you find a balance. Weave in intermittent fasting once a week if you want. Start slow. Start with 12 hours. If you're hungry, then go and eat. Make sure it's nutritious food. So these are the tools that we can provide our body for our body to actually heal itself. Because this photo here, this image here, and on the left, you got a normal cell. We're made up of trillions of cells, right? This is a nice and healthy cell, normal cell. We move to the middle. free radicals attacking that cell. Now, if we just talk about nutrition here, there's obviously other lifestyle factors that can influence our cell behavior, but just with nutrition, what happens, what do we put into our body for the free radicals to attack our cells? Vegetable oils and industrial seed oils, ultra processed foods. Those are the two culprits, or poor quality food, that will get our cells looking like the middle one. Now, if we don't do anything about that, then we move on to the next stage, which is oxidative stress, which that photo I showed you in 2005, getting that award, that was me. That was my cells screaming out for help. Now, I was only a young 25-year-old, so what happened next? Injury. But as we all get older, if we don't do anything about our lifestyle and our food choices, then that becomes illness and disease, chronic disease. And that's what we don't want. But the beauty of our bodies, and this is how amazing our bodies are, we turn over millions of cells daily, millions. So if you start practicing these 4 steps, you can go from an oxidative cell, stress cell on the right, and you can go back to a normal cell, because you're providing the body with the right tools. This is no matter what age you are, because the body still turns over cells. So if you're providing it the right tools, it might be a lot slower with different people or quicker with other people. It's just the way your body works. But if you stay consistent with it, your body will repair itself. So I'm going to take you back to my career now. I'm now 30, it's 2010. I hadn't played a full season since 2006. Now, in professional sport, you're classed as old at 30. Now, I played the next 5 years with no injury. I got to play my 300th game, which is cool. I got the captain of premiership in 2013 at 33, which was awesome. But, those 2 achievements were great, but that wasn't the best thing that happened. This is the best thing that happened. On the left, that's 2014. I'm 34. I'm retired, just retired. On the right is the image I showed you earlier when I'm at 27. Now look at the vast difference in the health of my spine when I'm much older to when I was in my prime. And remember, all the professional doctors and specialists were saying it's pretty hard to rehydrate one disc, let alone all of them. So this is why I'm so passionate about nutrition and lifestyle, because that just really proves to me that what you put in your body, not just for short-term energy production and mental clarity every day, for long-term health, that your body can repair itself no matter what, if you stay consistent with these choices. So now, as you can see, the 2 lowest discs I had both operated on, and another piece broke off and metabolized by the body. So my vertebrae were really close together. So I was struggling to sort of arch my back because I was starting to hit. So I went and seen a surgeon, and I seen a few actually, and I went with a guy at St Vincent's called Mark Winder, who I got along well with. He was looking at this image on the left, and he said, mate, without even looking at you, I know you're going to breeze through this operation. Your discs look fantastic. All the tissues around your spine look great. I know that you eat well, you train, you look after yourself, just from that image. He goes, I recommend a disc replacement at L45 and a fusion at L5S1. And you'll walk out of hospital by day 4. So I was pretty confident with what he was saying, so I went with him. And this is my back now. On the right, you can see the 2 titanium plates with a gel insert in the middle. Acts exactly like a normal disc, moves exactly like a normal disc. And on the other one, on the other image, you can see the screws. You can't really see a wedge that's there, and there's 3 screws just shoring that level up. So he made me a little bit taller because my discs aren't collapsed anymore, which is cool. But it's literally the best operation I've had. I don't have any lower back pain anymore. I used to get stuck when I sat down for long periods of time, or even when I sneezed. That doesn't happen, and it was the best operation I've had. I still look after my back every day with core stability programs and good nutrition. But he was right. You provide the body the right nutrition, the connective tissues will repair itself, and everything will hold itself together. So it just proves that, what you put in your body does really matter. So I'll go back to this, what Adam mentioned and what Matt Elliott showed me a while ago. If you don't make time for your wellness, you will be forced to make time for your illness. So don't wait until you get ill or sick before you change things. And that's my message to the young professional athletes out there today as well, is don't wait until you get injured. Start to do these things now to prevent injury. So thanks, guys. Thanks for listening. If you got any questions, let's chat.
Thanks, Minnie. I'll open the chat box up in a moment. But and another amazing session. So thanks for that. I need to congratulate you on your resilience and persistence, obviously, because you went through a lot, as we've just heard, and there's many a person who would have just given up on the back of such severe injury, particularly on some of that medical advice that you did receive. That ultimately you've got to stop doing what you were extremely passionate about. I also just want to make the point of you make a lot of sense in regard to, obviously you've practiced this healing approach through food and also the preparation, and so it's something that I've certainly taken away from this session, and it kind of comes back to that same message that if you take that bit of time for your wellness, you are going to eliminate the need for the time for illness. And so I just wanted to again thank you, and pardon the pun, and I don't want to eat into your question time, but I just wanted to remind everyone that you will receive a copy of today's presentation, as well as contact details for Minnie, should you have any interest in him coming out to your workplace and speaking to the staff. I'm now going to open up the chat box and obtain, for one, to obtain everyone's feedback on what you thought of Minnie's presentation, and two, so that you can ask any questions of Minnie. So in explaining how the feedback scale works, if you thought today's session was good, you'd give us a 4 or a 5, or give Minnie a 4 or a 5. If you thought it was so-so, you'd give us a score of 3. And if it didn't hit the mark for you, you'd give it a 1 or 2. And we probably won't invite Minnie back. Only kidding, Minnie. We'll invite you back. I also wanted to point out the details on the right-hand side of this slide, which is kind of covered at the moment with the poll, but it gives some details in regards to some of the upcoming events. And there's also a QR code. So on the final slide that you'll get in your pack, there is a QR code that you can have a look at some of the upcoming events, and you can also get access to Jeff Hardy's webinar or the webinar recording that I mentioned earlier. So now let's take this opportunity to ask any questions you might have of Minnie. So please start asking away, and I will see if I can get onto them as well as I can, because there seems to be a few coming through.
Yep.
Here we go, Minnie. There's one here. Do you have any thoughts to the effectiveness of vitamins and other supplements as additives, and also herbal remedies and supplement or alternatives, healthcare in addition to the modern medicines and practices?
Yeah, that's a good question. So the foundation should come from nutrition, and then your supplement sort of regime, you could call it, should support that. Now, I've gone a bit deeper into the supplement stuff with my own testing. So I work with my own integrative doctor that I've done gut microbiome test, blood test, and genetic testing. So my supplement regime is all geared towards me and my own body. So I know that things are working, because but the first step is that some supplement industries are quite dodgy, and they say that this is what's in the capsules, but it's really not. It's half of that. So finding a reputable company first is paramount, but then are they actually really working? And you can only do that through testing of your own body and knowing what your own health data is. But I would say that generally a good quality fish oil, a magnesium, and even a vitamin D spray across the park is important to add to your whole food nutrition foundation.
Okay, another question. Do you eat lots of carbohydrates? I am Japanese and I love white rice. Is that bad?
No, white rice isn't bad at all. Actually, white rice is better than brown rice, believe it or not, because brown rice has the casing over it, casein, which is really hard to digest and can disrupt gut lining. So when you peel that outer layer off, you get the white kernel. And I try and eat my white rice cold because it becomes resistant starch, which is a prebiotic. Now, prebiotics feed the probiotics in our gut bacteria. So prebiotic fiber is really important for good gut health. Now, prebiotic fibers are cold potatoes, cold white rice, green bananas, green mangoes, anything that has a resistant starch type element to your carbohydrates, which is important. So all my carbohydrates are from vegetables and some white potatoes, some white rice.
Okay, and what are your thoughts on store-bought bone broth?
Okay, good question. Now, you have to read labels. If you're buying any store-bought bone broth, it needs to state that it's coming from grass-fed cows, or even further, grass-fed, grass-finished. Now, there is a couple of companies that do it, but most of them that are on there, even with the collagen powders now, they're all just mass-produced, coming from grain-fed, factory farm cows. So reading labels is really important. Um, or, I've got a spot in Bronte which sells bone broth, but it's $10 a bottle where you can spend $10 and buy your bones and do it yourself. It just takes 24 hours and a bit of prep, and you have this huge, much more volume of bone broth for you. But there is another company if you want to make things easy. It's called NutraViva.com.au. It's an Australian-owned company. They have collagen powder. They have instant collagen bone broth, or just instant bone broth. Tablespoon in a glass, hot water, and you've got bone broth straight away. And that is all coming from grass-fed, grass-finished cows. They have a marine one. They have a vegetable one. All top quality stuff. That's NutraViva. They're a good Australian-owned company.
Okay, what would you suggest be the first step to change your eating habits?
The first step would be to get rid of all the industrial seed oils, all the vegetable oils, start cooking with better oils, and then start to look into better quality animal products.
Okay, and how long would you say it took from when you actively focused on switching back to whole foods to feeling or seeing a difference?
Yeah, that's a good question. So everyone is completely different, but I remember I felt pretty shit for 2 weeks. I felt crap. But after that 2 week period, as all the crap was getting out of my body, what I really noticed first was better quality sleep. So I would have a much deeper sleep. I would wake up. I would feel much more refreshed, mentally thinking clearer. That's what I noticed first, but that took me about 2 weeks. But some people that I've spoken to, they've lost 7 kilos in a week and gone on to lose 40 odd kilos, and Neil's a big guy. But then other guys that were really, really lean had put on good quality muscle mass. So everyone is different. But if you stay consistent with it, the results will come.
Okay, and on a typical day, when is your first meal and last meal of the day?
Yeah, so that varies. Like I don't wake up and eat breakfast straight away at all. Although there is some current research within the first hour of waking to consume protein as well, just to mix it up. But generally, I have my first meal at 11 or 12, sometimes 1. I never do anything the same. So I don't want to give my body the same thing every day, because you do get results, but then it'll plateau after a 5 or 6 week period. So I might have a coffee in the morning, or I'll let you know my morning routine. So I'll wake up naturally in between 6 and 6:30. I'll go out and obviously brush my teeth, but I'll have a big glass of water with a pinch of salt, Celtic sea salt, which is minerals and electrolytes. And then I obviously get my daughter's lunch ready, but I'll go downstairs. I've got this infrared red light panel, I stand in front of that for 5 or so minutes and I have a cold shower. That's my morning routine every morning, and then I start my day. If I'm running PE programs in schools, I would eat at the first break, which is normally around 10:30, 11. If I'm in the office for the day, I just judge it how I'm feeling. Some days you're hungrier than others, and I'll go and eat. Other days in the work mode and I feel clear, I just continue on until later in the day. So I do vary it, which is important.
Okay. Is it possible to purchase quality frozen vegetables?
Yeah, there is. Yep. So I've got a couple of delivery systems that I use. So one with my animal products, I have a farm called Ethical Farmers, which is snap frozen, and I have in the freezer. But if I want something fresh, then I'll go down to my local butcher in Double Bay it is. Then I've got my fruits and vegetables. I'm on a 2-week rotation with a company called Let Us Deliver, and they just deliver whatever's in season, organic produce at the time, which is great. But again, obviously reading the packets and, reading labels becomes important when you're buying sort of store-bought or packet type of foods. That's the key there.
Yeah. Okay, and this kind of on the back of that one to a degree is, it's got don't laugh, but is it possible to achieve similar outcomes if you're a vegetarian?
Yeah, no, there is. I would ask the question: do you eat fish or eggs? Because they are some of the most nutrient-dense foods on the planet. If you get good quality wild-caught fish or pastured eggs, important. I also would say if you don't and you are sort of leaning towards vegan, start doing your own testing and make sure that your B vitamin levels are sufficient. Because people depending on your body type and genetic, people can thrive on those type of things, those types of diets. There's no doubt. But I would be looking into your own testing and just seeing if all your levels are at where you want it to be.
Yeah, okay. There's another question here, man. I'm not sure if you got the chance to speak through it, but you mentioned you would touch on eating nose to tail.
Oh yes. Sorry about that. Yeah, got carried away. So that means not always eating the muscle meats like the T-bone, the eye fillet, the Scotch fillet. Getting the slow cooked cuts like the ossobuco, the shin bone, the lamb shoulders, the lamb shanks, the lamb neck, all those slow cooked cuts, which are much cheaper to buy, mind you, and then you slow cook them, and they actually become more nutritious for us than the standard muscle meats, because that's the animal's connective tissue. So their tendons, their ligaments, and if it's coming from a healthy animal, that nutrition is vital to repair our own body and decrease inflammation within ourselves. So getting those nose to tail cuts, much cheaper, but when you slow cook them, they become more nutritious for us and delicious.
Okay. And when you're fasting, what fluids do you drink?
Just water with a pinch of salt. Like a traditional fast is no caloric intake, so no calories. So you can do black coffee, black tea, lemon in tea, or water with a pinch of salt. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Here's a question with regard to, I'll read it out verbatim. I noticed that there was still a large promotion on meat products. Given that meat and meat products are oxidants and promote free radicals in the body, shouldn't there be promotion of less meat and not just high quality?
No, so the body does need protein, right? So good quality protein, as mentioned before, has all 9 essential amino acids. Now, you can get essential amino acids from different types of vegetables, but you need they have 1 or 2, then the other veggies have 1 or 2. And the thing is, for the body to actually synthesize it, you need all 9 in the one go as the body's digesting, and that's why protein is a complete protein. And if you're doing any type of frying, you should always eat medium rare. So you're leaving the nutrition. Obviously, the pink stuff is the nutrition; it's not oxidized, and that's why we should be slow cooking a lot. So there's no oxidation with the low temperatures.
Okay. There's a heap of questions here, so I don't think we're going to get time to go through all of them. I do apologize. But what other things can you do to reduce stress and cortisol?
So, there's probably 4 lifestyle factors. So obviously, nutrition's a big one. Sleep is huge. Movement and exercise, and natural sunlight is massive. So if you light is energy. So I try not to wear sunglasses before 10 a.m. and then at late afternoon when the sun's going down, look into the sun as well, because that gives you vitamin D production, but it is vital for our bodies to have our cell connection nice and healthy, and just gives us energy. Sunlight is so important. Not sunburn, sunlight. 10 minutes before 10 a.m. with no sunglasses on is really important for health and well-being. Trying to get 8 hours sleep a night is important. Moving our body, and movement and exercise are 2 different things, right? Movement is activating the lymphatic system, making sure we don't sit down for long periods of time throughout your day. And then exercising, finding something that you actually enjoy doing is important. If you don't like going to the gym, don't go to the gym. If you like playing tennis, go try and schedule that in once a week or once every 2 weeks, so it gives you enjoyment. And then providing the body 80% good nutrition each time. Those things there will all help cortisol normalize and help you with de-stress. Or there's lots of, walking in nature, practicing meditation, practicing breathing, diaphragmatic breathing. There's heaps of things that you can incorporate to try and normalize that cortisol and de-stress. And the main thing is, if you like, do something that you like and enjoy, so that makes it sustainable.
Okay. Here we go. There was one here who I think is a bit of a footy fan. And that, can you share some key lifestyle changes that had the most significant and obvious impact on your overall well-being?
Well,
and who is going to win the NRL Grand Final?
Well, I was hoping the Roosters, but we've got too many injuries now. So I think it's Melbourne Penrith Grand Final. I'm not too sure who's going to win yet, so we'll see how we go. But I think, the big one is the food intake for me. That's what changed my connective tissue health and really repaired my body. And then, the next one is sleep, trying to go to bed at a reasonable time or similar time each night to get 7 or 8 hours in, really important. And then, exercising for me, it's just sort of naturally built in me from growing up on a farm. So my sort of exercise regime now, I only go to the gym once or twice a week. And then I play tennis once a week because I love tennis, and then I'm running around with kids most of the week. So if I'm doing my PE programs in school, I'm doing 20,000 steps a day. Then I'll just sort of lay in front of the TV at night and do some core programs or have a stretch. So those consistent practices keep me on top of my game.
Okay. Well, have you got time, Minnie? There's still quite a fair few people online, so it's up to you. Yeah. Okay. So there's one here from I'm assuming a mother who says, my daughter has juvenile arthritis. At 17, had double TMJ replacement. Now is suffering hand and knee issues. I've tried bone broths, good foods, etc., and continue to do so. She's never fasted. I'll try this. Is there any other suggestions to help?
Yeah, I would definitely say get her gut tested. So get the gut microbiome test. That is probably the most comprehensive test that anyone can do for their own health, because a lot of people have methylation issues. And now methylation is, so you eat food, the body needs to convert it in some type of nutrient form for the body to take up, and that's called methylation. That's the process it's called. Now, some people, or most people, have methylation issues with some B vitamins in the body. So you could be eating the healthiest sort of foods, but the body's not actually digesting them properly or even taking up the nutrients from that methylation problem. You don't really know that until you do some genetic testing or test your gut. And because it could be just an adjustment in gut bacteria, there's something that's out of balance, or there's a dysbiosis there, or there's a leaky gut syndrome that may happen that can be all fixed up from getting that gut microbiome test, and then the body is flooded with good nutrition or can digest its food properly. That's where I would be going, because then you're starting to fine tune her own health for her.
Yeah, good point. What about is it legumes and pulses as a source of protein rather than meat?
Yep, you can definitely do that, but there is a process, a bit of a slower process that we need to look at before you cook them. And that's soaking them overnight, or making sure, because the pulses and some types of nightshade vegetables, they're high in lectins, which is one of the plant's defense mechanisms. Now, if we've got any compromised gut or any leaky gut, that can really disrupt gut bacteria, even though these foods are nutrient dense as well. So soaking them for a period of time or overnight and then rinsing them off will get some of that lectin content out of those the pulses, and then they will be easier digested. So I don't know if you've heard of activated nuts. That's the activated means that they've been soaked and dried at low temperature for us to digest it a lot easier, because nuts have lectin content as well. Same thing with pulses. If you just soak it for a period of time, then rinse them off, then cook them, or pressure cook them is a good one as well. That can reduce the lectin content.
Okay, I'm going to ask one more question, Minnie, because you've gone well over time, and I do appreciate that. And thank you everyone for sending the questions through. We're not going to get through all of them. I do apologize. But I can see you've inspired some people to get a slow cooker, so that's great. Thank you.
Beautiful.
And then there was another question. Are there any books you would recommend for further research and recipes?
Yeah, so there's a book, if you look up Dr. Mark Hyman, I love his content. Like, he's in I follow all different types of doctors and stuff, but he's in the middle. I think he's got the most sensible sort of outlook. Dr. Mark Hyman, he's great. He's got his own podcast called the Doctor's Pharmacy. He's got lots of books. Google his name or look it up on Audible or whatnot. He's awesome.
Okay.
Sorry, Minnie,
Well,
can we just have one more quickly that I thought was interesting in the chat? Someone's asked about how to fast depending on where you're at with your cycle if you're a woman.
Yeah, that's an excellent question, actually. So obviously the female hormonal profile is completely different to males. So, like the current research, Andrew Huberman is another guy that I follow. He reads out just research and studies, and he's very non-biased to everything. And his advice currently is, males can fast every day if they wanted, but in the female sort of reproductive system and cycle is a little bit different, obviously. So if just say you've practiced fasting before and you really enjoy it, every second day for females is the optimal way. Or when you're going through your cycle, if it's that time of the month, then just eat normally, and then once it passes, then you can weave your intermittent fasting back in.
That's excellent. Thank you. And thanks for bringing that one up, Sheridan. Sorry, I did miss it. There's lots of questions coming through.
There's a lot in there, yeah.
There's heaps of questions. So I just wanted to again thank everyone for joining us today. And if you joined us in the prior wellness sessions, thank you for attending those also. Thanks, Minnie, for the amazing presentation that you delivered today. Really appreciate it. Really appreciate your time, and particularly going over to answer a lot of these questions.
All good.
And just to remind everyone, you will get a copy of today's session of the presentation pack, and it'll probably take 2, maybe 3 weeks for us to be able to audit the recording or edit the recording. And then we'll be sure to reach out and let everyone know when that is available. And if you want to reach out to Minnie, we'll also share his details, as I said previously, where he can visit workplaces and look at ways to look at the wellness of your operation to benefit you all. And yeah, so thank you. Thanks, everyone. I just wanted to also just make sure that you take this wellness message away with you and focus on your wellness so you don't have to spend that time on your illness. So goodbye, stay safe and stay well. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Everyone.
Appreciate your time.
Thanks, Minnie.
Thank you.